this is our time. There will not be another time. You know, of all of the different injustices, of all of the communities that are downtrodden, that are pushed around, of all of the prejudices that are put into society to control different groups, all of them are made worse by this problem. Everybody who's in any struggle is in this struggle, and it's our fight, and we're fighting together. And whether we like it or not, we're on the same side. Since starting this, I've met people who I would have had no occasion to ever contact or speak to in my entire life, and perhaps would have assumed I wouldn't get on with. Hundreds of them who I'd now say are some of my closest friends. Thousands of them who I respect and would never betray. Millions of them who I'd stand behind if they were in a fight, stand at their side, stand in front of them. There's nothing I would abandon people that have got into this with me for, and I know that other people feel the same. So I don't think that if it matters if we think about when or if. I think it's now, I think it's permanent, I think it's our fight, and I think we cannot give up. It doesn't matter about winning. It's just about never giving up. Never. Because the fight, in truth, will take multiple generations. The enemy is so insidious that they live within us. Not just figuratively, but literally among us are many bad actors. They're on the sponsorship and behest of our enemies. And so we have to keep going. There is no defeat. There is no surrender. This is our time. This is our fight.
Man, you're getting me all riled up. Like, maybe it's the Scottish accent. I'm getting like Braveheart flashbacks, but you're yeah. And I think you're right. I don't think that people will give up. Like, the community has internalized that as well. It's like, don't talk about dates. And it started as something where maybe a lot of people were jumping in and going, well, it could be a couple of weeks, then we're going to have the squeeze and it's all going to be over. But now it's become so much more than that. It's moved beyond just like this tiny little get rich quick scheme. The education that we were talking about of people has exposed to them the level of fraud, and they've decided that this is their hill upon which they're willing to die. And like, maybe not literally, but it's so incredible to watch it happen, because people are there, and they're not just like saying, here's the position that I hold, I'm going to hold it. They're going, give me more. Come on. Like, let's like stack this big sort of boxes of TNT that we're preparing for the global financial market. It's just like, come on, like, give me some more. Like, give me some more. It's like, which is stunning in itself. Is that people, that there's so much anger as well in the movement, but like so much positivity at the same time. It's incredible to witness. And I think the thing that the hedge funds or Kenny G or whatever doesn't get is that they're not fighting people. And this is like the thing that I'm still trying to figure out quite how to articulate it. It's like they're fighting a bunch of individuals who are already angry at the system, but who are LARPing as the apes that never give up, who don't know what they're doing. They just buy and hold. And you can't defeat people who are playing a meme, because you can't kill a meme. Like, people tried to shut down Pepe the Frog, but it's still everywhere. Like, you cannot, it doesn't matter how insidious that idea is. And this one is not like anywhere near the level of like sort of controversy that Pepe the Frog was. This is a beautiful idea.
I love the way you describe it there, LARPing and beautiful. And that's exactly what it is. No, and some people quite reasonably and understandably find my way of communicating to be quite aggressive. And it's true, it is. You know, I do advocate for financial violence against these entities. I do think that would have a powerful message, and it would send, like, it would echo, you know, not just making the shorts cover, which is like, getting them back on the path of righteousness. No, I want to, those who found the speckles in our eyes but can't see the mote of their own, I want them destroyed. I want that destruction to be fire on that hill that we committed to, that's seen all over the markets. And like you say, it is a meme, and that's so true what you say, they're indestructible. The more you try to get rid of a meme, the more funnier it gets and the more it comes back. It wasn't like we're a natural born reaction to these guys. It forms every part of our life. The meme culture that's come around was our generation. And they don't understand it, nor do they understand us. And they think that they can fight us by employing those tactics and psychological warfare against us that worked against the boomers, those people who grew up with very different opportunities to the subsequent couple of generations. And at this stage, it's like that phrase, we've got nothing to lose. You've already taken away all of our freedoms and opportunities. You control our idea of free will and free choice. And you try to shut down our memes.
Yeah.
How else do we fight back against this, and how often does it stand still and give us the opportunity to do so?
Yeah, there really isn't much opportunity for people have found their revolution, because I'm going to butcher this quote, but it's like you start, like, first people will they'll try the revolution at the ballot box, and when that doesn't work, they'll go for the soapbox and they'll preach on the street, and when that doesn't work, then they'll turn to the financial world, and then I can't remember what the box that they say is, and then the final one is the Tinder box, and we're slowly moving along that like progression, but yeah, I think people have found their, like, this is where we stand moment, which is beautiful. Again, like we said, to watch. You kind of mentioned like the psychological warfare aspects. To what extent do you think that there has been like the conversation manipulated? Because I'm speaking to a couple of former mods at the minute, and they've been very helpful in trying to figure this out. And I've also spoken to Alexander Cohen, who is currently, to your point about how this moves forward, building the terminal with Dave Lauer, which is going to be like the central hub where they want it to be for providing retail investors with the same level of information that hedge funds have access to, and building like a Reddit-esque platform. I think they called it OnlyFans for Finance. In order to give people the power to fight back beyond just this. They're interested in building on this revolution, which is super interesting. But yeah, sorry. What extent do you think that conversation has been manipulated online?
Yeah, it's very difficult to perceive, it's what do they call it? Doppler effect. When you can only really notice it in how people react to you, or in the absence of certain types of evidence. It's very difficult to know as and when at the time. I know a number of times I've been sucked into conversations on the internet, whether that be live on my stream or on a different social media platform, with someone who seems to have genuinely good intentions. They come from a place of hoping to dispel ignorance, their own ignorance, and they present it as a question to you. And then they try to pick apart your response. And initially, when you direct your attention to these people, you try to be helpful. So you give them like maybe a bite size, a takeaway bit of information, or you don't understand the full extent of what they don't know. So you're approaching it with some information you imagine to be helpful. But of course, inevitably, it's not the whole story. And then they'll try to like put things and say, oh yeah, but this, oh yeah, but that. And you find yourself having an hour-long conversation on the internet when only meant to be a response to someone's tweet, or a quick conversation when you're having a live stream, where that person is deliberately putting out false information which, had they the level of investigative interest that would be necessary to dictate this conversation they're currently having with me, then they would definitely already be aware of this little bits of information. And at that stage, it's obvious to me in the back and forth, but to the people who also have just arrived and don't know what's going on, it can seem that because the person's being reasonable and they're asking polite questions, that perhaps their intentions are good, when actually it's just to create fear, uncertainty, and doubt in your mind, you as the audience, because they know they're not going to change my mind. And that's like a very small and relatively trivial example. There's also people who have got like people with lots and lots of followers who may or may not have a financial background before, who control lots of people's thoughts and dictate like certain levels. They'll even jump in and be quite enthusiastic and pro-GME for a period of time. And then once they've got some credibility, turn around and say, shucks, it just isn't going to happen. Or something far more destructive and far more dishonest. You see that all the time. And it's led to so much fragmentation too, because of the nature of these bad actors. It's led to fragmentation. It's led to degrees of paranoia. It's led to people being less open to talking to each other. And that's the ultimate effect that side of the trade is going for. They don't necessarily want to convince me, and they don't necessarily want to convince you. But if they can divide and conquer, then maybe their narrative will win out. And so it's very much within their interests. You know how you referenced Kramer's interview, which I have indeed seen, but I couldn't remember. But you were saying things about it, about who's phoning traders and journalists and that. And I did remember something about that.
I'll link it in the description for people.
Yeah, good shout. Just as he did that, the same thing happens here. With these people trying to control the narrative, trying to change people's opinions. And ultimately, prices are driven by speculation. So if there's more and more negative speculation, or there's speculation that proves then to be disappointing, that all plays into the hands of people on the other side of the trades, which is partly where this idea of like no dates comes from. Let's manage our own expectations. But like you say, like we were talking earlier, if you just completely remove the x-axis from that at all and say, well, this is a permanent war that we can't ever give up and we'll never forgive, then you're maybe less susceptible to it. And I've found it very difficult myself to counter this conversation, because it does, like when you're doing a live stream, and especially when it might have lots and lots, thousands and thousands and thousands of people watching, and it's like a Q&A sort of vibe, then you'll get so many questions, and it's hard to differentiate between the people who genuinely want to understand and those who've got some sort of agenda. It's very, very difficult, and you'll usually only learn later when you see that same username or sock puppet or whatever it happens to be. Sometimes it is a genuine person pop up somewhere else, and they've got a different story, they've got a different narrative, or they're pushing some other, and you think, well, that's just not consistent, and those sort of like stuff like that happens all the time. And then, I mean, I don't know how many emails I've got, an awful lot of them. More than any other topic that people have got in touch with me via email about is PR companies that ask me to stop talking about GameStop and offer to pay me to talk about these other things. Often they're perfectly normal things that I would talk about anyway, but the exclusive part of the agreement is that I'm not to talk about GameStop, and that their email often concludes phrases such as "without prejudice," and then you'll check where that PR firm comes from, and it's like, it's a mailing address, and the website was created in January this year, and they probably aren't really a PR firm. In fact, if they are, they're operating on behalf of some umbrella organization, and so much of that, plus all the fake social media profiles, and then the causing the fractious nature between various groups. And it might be people within the GME communities online, which sounds silly, but there are millions and millions of people across these different communities, and they are very serious places. There's also people like in AMC that will say negative things about GME, or people in GME who say things about AMC that's over and above the truth of the narrative, and is is intentionally designed to cause problems between people. So you and I were talking briefly at the start, before we started filming, about AMC and GME and different aspects and positive things about both of them. And there's people out there instead, though, who will be saying things just to make people think one is better than the other, exclusively so that they can control the next thought that person has. And so it's a very good idea, I find, if anybody tries to tell you something or they don't have evidence or you're suspicious of them, to just discount it, ignore them, and go somewhere where you'll get better information. You know, you don't have to take everything in from everybody, and if somebody seems weird, ignore it. And I've found that to be my approach now.
Thanks for making it all the way to the end of the podcast. Don't forget our sponsor, ExpressVPN, and my book, Brexit, The Establishment Civil War, can both be found in the links in the description below. And also, please like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. It's the best way to help us grow. Until next time, thanks for listening. Screw the hedge funds.
You can make as many rules as you want, but if there's no teeth behind them, what's the point?
Well, like Citadel is potentially just gone in a few months. It feels like financial institutions, that they are all laughing at us by buying GME. Screw the hedge funds. Like, I will lose my entire investment if it brings them down.
Why on earth, last May, could you buy the entire company for $200 million?
What's been happening on Reddit and in social media and in the marketplace has never been seen before.
I argue that nothing is off the table. There is nothing off the table when dealing with the volumes of money in something as big as the United States stock market.
The hedge funds have clearly underestimated a group of people raised on Friday night World of Warcraft raids.
Dark pools, they're another mechanism to manipulate and cheat. Mainstream journalists don't say these things for a number of reasons. One is their sources are the people that I'm talking about, and so they can't call somebody a crook.
Superstonk and the other communities that have emerged are a hive mind, the likes of which we have never seen before. It's madness and brilliance, insanity and genius all rolled into one. It's very possible that Citadel will be gone in a few months. And not just Citadel, but the entire financial system has the potential to come crashing down. These crooks continue to gamble recklessly with the world economy, and this could be the moment that they finally get their justice.